In today's episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast, Cade Cunningham, 4 or 5 minutes played in the All-Star game. The All-Star game, complete mess. We're going to talk about what's wrong with the All-Star game, what's going on with the All-Star weekend, and why its current format is unfair to fan bases like the Detroit Pistons, who only got to watch Cade for 4 or 5 minutes. We'll talk about it all today. Locked On Pistons podcast. Let's go.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I'm your host, Cade Cunningham. You can find me over on Twitter at Cade Cunningham. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button. Guys, we are 30 subs away from 10,000. 30 subs away. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. We're going to hit it this week. When it happens, we're going to celebrate. I'm going to be so happy. But appreciate all of you guys. But 30 subs away, man. Help us get there this week. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review, whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. Another great way to support the podcast. Love to get that rating up. Along with that, subscribe to my personal YouTube channel at Cade Cunningham, where I'm dropping film breakdowns for your Detroit Pistons. We might start doing some other things over there. I'll let you guys know. Also, I'll put the link in the description down below for the playback room if you'd like to watch NBA games, mostly 99% of the time. Piston games with us, the rest of the Pistons fan base. It's a lot of fun. We've had a real good time. Go join us over there. I'll link it down below. You can join the room. I really would appreciate it. And again, like I said, it's always a fun time. And today's episode also is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. All right, so I'm recording this on Monday, the day after the All-Star game. This past weekend obviously was the All-Star weekend. Later on, we'll talk about expectations for the rest of the season with the Detroit Pistons. And then also, something I'm really interested in talking about is storylines that you should watch for the rest of the year concerning the Detroit Pistons. But I have to start here. I've had so many of you guys reach out to me and say, "Coo, please talk about the All-Star game. Please talk about All-Star weekend. Please talk about this. This is BS, blah, blah, blah." So we're going to talk about it. So I'm not going to spend too much time with the dunk contest, too much time with the three-point competition, too much time with the skills challenge. One, because Cade was only in the three-point contest, and I don't really have too much to complain about with the three-point contest. And the other stuff, I don't think anyone really, I feel like that's not the biggest point here. Even though this dunk contest, I could go on for a bit about that. Don't think that's the point here. The All-Star game, the NBA All-Star game has reached an all-time low. I did not believe that it was possible for the NBA All-Star game to be worse than what it already was. I didn't think it was possible to be worse than just players just not really giving a damn, trying real hard, and just seeing no defense getting played. I didn't think you could get worse than that. But damn it, Adam Silver and the rest of the NBA showed us that, hell, we can definitely get lower. We can get lower than that. Cade Cunningham, for those of you guys who didn't watch the All-Star game and don't know about this new format they did, they took the All-Stars that were voted in, and they broke them up into 3 teams. Now, they had a 4-team tournament. One of the teams weren't All-Stars. They were rising stars. It's like that rookies versus sophomores challenge, whatever. That team was the 4th team involved in this tournament, okay? They split the 3 teams up, or the All-Stars into 3 teams, and instead of playing East versus West, or even, I was fine, low-key, I was fine with the pickup aspect of, okay, instead of East versus West, here you go, 2 teams, pick up your team, you got 2 captains. I was actually cool with that. I liked it. You pick your teams, you have 2 teams, play a game, just like regular, just not East versus West. Instead, you got 4 teams, and each game played up to 40, and then moved on to the next round. First thing that's wrong with that, way too low of a target score. I mean, these games were done like that. The games are just over like that. That's one. 2, along with that, you got people who are fans of the Detroit Pistons, who are fans of people like Cade Cunningham, obviously. Heck, we can even go outside the Pistons fan base. Go to a team's fan base like the Houston Rockets, who have first-time All-Star, Alperen Sengun, okay? Any fan base, well, obviously we're going to stay on Cade here, but any team's fan base that has a first-time All-Star, who is finally being recognized as an All-Star. You got Pistons fans who tune in, and you got to watch Cade for 4 minutes. Yeah, you got to see Cade for 4 minutes of action on Sunday night and his day was done. The event was supposed to start at 8 o'clock, 8:20. It didn't actually start until like 8:45. And then when it started, you got to watch him for 4 minutes, and then the next 2 hours, just nothing. You don't get to see him at all. He's not even on the court. While the games were going on with the rest of the teams, Cade was being interviewed in the backstage about his experience at All-Star Weekend. The All-Star Game wasn't even over yet. He's being interviewed. We're getting quotes from Cade, videos from Cade, talking about how he liked All-Star Weekend, what was his biggest takeaway from the All-Star Game. And the All-Star Game isn't even actually finished. So the All-Star Tournament isn't even finished yet. Who the hell thought that was a good idea? I don't see how that could have been viewed as a good idea. That's just absolute horrible. You don't get your first time All-Star, you didn't even get to see Cade do anything. You didn't even get to see Cade really on the floor. And part of the biggest experience or the most fun experience that we hear from players who get to be their first time All-Star, or even guys who have been there most of the time, like multiple times over, one of the biggest takeaways they've talked about is that the most fun is being in the locker room with everybody and playing on the court with everybody throughout that whole 48-minute experience. Just being able to joke around on the bench, talk on the bench, have fun on the court, see chemistry, that's the most fun experience. And now you've completely removed that for the players, first of all. You've completely removed that for someone like Cade, who only got 4 minutes, because you want to do this 4-round or 4-team tourney, and then once you lose, it's just over. Go in the back, dress up, it's over. We don't even want you here anymore. Like, that's just... I don't know who thought that was a good idea, but it absolutely killed any excitement for fans of the Pistons and fans of Cade, because it was over after 10 minutes. The game lasted 15 minutes maybe, and then that was it. And Cade only played in like 4 minutes of it. So it was just done for. It was dead. It was a dead mission. Dumb. Absolutely dumb. I hated it. That's first. Low target score, and 2, you only get to see your favorites for so long. You only get them for like a few minutes. Stupid. Absolutely stupid. That's 1 and 2. Number 3. Who in the hell at the NBA, within the NBA, thought that we wanted to see Adam Silver, before the start of this All-Star game, before All-Star Weekend, said, it was reported that they talked with players saying, please take this serious. We are begging you guys. We can't keep doing this with the product. You guys have to take it serious. And then their response to that was, let's go ahead and fill a 2.5-hour block, 3-hour block of what's supposed to be basketball. Let's fill it with ads. Let's fill it with random BS. Let's fill it with random people talking. We got a Mr. Beast event in the middle of it. We got Kevin Hart talking over the broadcast, yelling at players. You guys know how the storyline for the last few months has been, the NBA product's not good. The NBA game's not as diverse, not as fun. While that's happening, you're pushing against that. You have someone like Kevin Hart screaming over the game, echoing those same complaints during the All-Star game. During All-Star Weekend, when you're supposed to be celebrating basketball in the NBA, you have someone over what's supposed to be the biggest event of All-Star Weekend saying the All-Star game and the NBA is trash, they don't play it the right way, blah, blah. That's what you have going on. In the meantime, I'm pretty sure we only got 30 minutes of actual basketball during all of it. We got like 2 hours of ads, commercials, random speaking. We got a TNT tribute in the middle of a game. I'm surprised the players didn't walk off. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm surprised the players that were left didn't just go to the locker room. It was 11-1 in the final game. 11-1, and we got a halftime show to tribute TNT. The target score is 40. Like, this All-Star game was absolutely terrible. It pushed me so far to the point where I was like, let's get rid of All-Star Weekend. It pushed me to the extreme, the absolute extreme of just being like, I'd rather not have an All-Star Weekend than see this again. Like, that was just, that was by far the worst. That's worse than the NFL Pro Bowl, by far. I'd rather watch the NFL Pro Bowl do all those skills challenges when they actually try to do well in the skills challenge. Like when the QBs are trying to hit the target score and trying to get the ball in the bucket. Like that's actually fun to watch, to be honest. I'd rather them just have a bunch of skills challenges. And actually, maybe not. I take that back. Maybe not, because they've done diluted the skills challenge I grew up loving, the Taco Bell skills challenge and the Shooting Stars challenge. They've combined it into one, and now that event is trash. So All-Star Weekend was absolutely putrid, and they completely ruined it for Piston fans and every fan, again, not just Pistons fan and Cade fan, even though that was ruined. They ruined it for every fan that was a fan of a person who had their first time as an All-Star and only got to see them for 4 minutes because the target scores the 40. The games wrap up like that, and then you have 30 minutes, 40 minutes of ads and commercials. Like, stupid. Absolutely stupid. Go back to either East versus West, or go back to the pickup style when you have 2 teams and just simply play, have them pick up their two captains, pick up their players, and you play an actual full game. So you get more than just 4 minutes of action with one of your favorite players, and you actually get an all-star game that is about the all-star game. Not about a tribute to TNT, not a comedy event with Kevin Hart talking trash about the product. Like, I saw a tweet earlier that broke down the time. I'm pretty sure it said 35 minutes of it was actually the game. Everything else was ads. Like 140 minutes or something of just ads, commercials, random events, talking. Like, worst, by far the worst All-Star weekend I've ever seen in my life. And I couldn't believe that they could get worse. I didn't think it was possible to get worse and have a worse product. And it sucks that this was the event that Cade got to be a part of. The year that Cade became a first-time All-Star, he got to experience it for 4 minutes. Like, come on, dude. The dude was interviewing. You were interviewing him while the game was actually still going on because his team lost and now it's over for them. Like, just absolutely dumb. Just absolutely dumb. Let me know in the comment section down below how you guys would save the All-Star game. Or are you at the point where it's just like, dude, just do what the NFL did, just get rid of the Pro Bowl. Get rid of the All-Star game. It is what, replace it with someone else or something else. Or just get rid of All-Star weekend in general. Let me know what you guys think. And obviously, let me know your guys' anger of only being able to watch Cade for 4 or 5 minutes. And he didn't even get the ball a lot during those 4 or 5 minutes, even though we did get a highlight dunk at least. We got the highlight dunk. But let me know, comment section down below. When we come back, now we'll talk about the expectations for the rest of the Detroit Pistons season coming up. When it comes to grocery shopping and meal planning, I've had this ongoing problem. I just don't have the time. Between work, life, and trying to eat healthier, I was constantly feeling stressed out. I go to the grocery store, buy things I don't need, then end up with no time to actually even cook the food I bought. And sticking to my health goals, that was absolutely a struggle too. But everything changed when I discovered Hungry Root. Honestly, it's been a game changer. It's the easiest way to eat healthy without all the stress. With Hungry Root, it's like having a personal shopper and nutritionist all in one. They take care of my grocery shopping, recommending meals and groceries based on my taste and health goals, from anti-inflammatory to high-protein and gluten-free options. And the best part, every meal is ready in 15 minutes or less. I'm talking quick, healthy meals that actually taste great, all delivered straight to my door. It's been a huge time saver, and it's made eating healthy so much simpler. You're going to love Hungry Root as much as I do, I promise. For a limited time, you can get 40% off your first box and a free item in every box for life. Just go to hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA and use code LockedOnNBA. That's hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA and use code LockedOnNBA to get 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life. That's hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA, code LockedOnNBA. Don't miss out with Hungry Root. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We're free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Like I said, 30 subscribers away, man, from 10,000. 30 away. If you're listening or watching and haven't joined or haven't subscribed to the podcast, hit that subscribe button. I really would appreciate it. You can also leave us a 5-star review, whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. You can also go subscribe to my personal YouTube channel where I'm dropping film breakdowns. You can also go subscribe to the Playback Room. I'll link that down below, where you can watch Piston games, every game with me, myself, and the rest of the Pistons fan base, the rest of the Locked On Pistons community. It's been a lot of fun watching the games with you guys. Join that down below. I'll link the Playback Room in the description below. All right, well, we're at February 17th, and even though this is actually way past the halfway point, this is usually what I feel like most people would just, again, even though it's not actually a halfway point, this is kind of where people just mark, like, okay, this is the halfway point. I think you guys get what I'm saying. Most casuals would say, okay, after the All-Star break, that's like the second half of the season, even though games-wise it's not really. Where are the Pistons at, and what should be their expectations the rest of the year? Now, I saw that the Pistons have the 18th hardest ranked schedule left in the NBA. Not bad at all. Really good for them. They are currently 29-26. They are 1 game behind the Milwaukee Bucks, and they are 2 games behind the Indiana Pacers for the 4th seed. I just want to say this real quickly. A week ago, I was looking at these standings, and I think the Pistons were like 7th at that time or something. And I think they were like 4 or 5 games behind Indiana. And I was like, yeah, that 4th seed's out of, completely out of, possibility. That's not going to happen. But this just lets you know that a good week a good winning streak can completely change that quickly. Because after a 4-game win streak for the Pistons, they're only 2 games behind Indiana. And really, 1 game behind them in the win total. They've played how many extra games they played 3 more games than the Indiana Pacers. They played 2 more games than the Bucks, who are ahead of them as well at the 5th seed. So as they play more games, the Pistons may not even have to do anything. If they lose some of those games, the games behind will naturally drop without the Pistons even having to win. My point is that just a good week, a good winning streak can completely change where the Pistons are ranked within the conference. Now, likewise, a long losing streak could do it as well, but let's not anticipate that happening. So with that said, what should be the expectations for the Detroit Pistons the rest of the year? Cade mentioned this during All-Star Weekend. He said that he wants his expectations, or he has set his expectations at winning a playoff series. So let's just operate with that. I'm going to operate from Cade's expectations, and then I'm going to operate what I believe are fair expectations, what I believe are actually fair. I don't think winning a playoff series this year is realistic, but let's just go down that road. We'll go down that road and have some fun with it. If the Pistons want to win a playoff series, want to have a chance at winning a playoff series, they have to get to the 5th seed, I think. They absolutely have to. They have no chance at beating the Cavs. 0 chance. The Cavs will destroy them. Let's just be honest. The Boston Celtics will destroy them. It will probably be a sweep, either team. Celtics or Cleveland. It will be a sweep, either one. Not close. It won't be close. And that's not an insult to the Detroit Pistons. That's not, being pessimistic. Anybody who is not a complete biased, doesn't watch the NBA, would say that. Cleveland is probably the best team in the NBA this year. They would annihilate the Pistons. And Boston, if you are saying the next best team in the NBA, you probably would say Boston and just say they're coasting a little bit during the regular season. Boston would destroy the Pistons as well. Those 2 teams, if you're in the 7th or 8th seed, it's not happening. You're not winning a playoff series. You have less than a 0% chance of doing it. Less than 0% chance of winning a playoff series. The 3 seed is New York. Now, the Pistons have gotten a few wins off New York. I think they could get a few playoff wins off of New York. I think they could win 2 games. I do not think they could beat New York in a playoff series. I do think it would be a competitive playoff series. I do think the Pistons would win their first playoff game since 2008 if they got matched up with New York at the 6th seed. If they stayed 6 and New York stayed 3, I could see that. I could see them winning a game, maybe 2. I do not see them winning a full-on series. I think and we'll talk about this in the 3rd segment, if you go against New York, the Pistons' weaknesses are going to be exposed repeatedly game after game, and that's when you really start strategizing against the team, and the Pistons won't have answers to that, such as Cat. Having a 5 that spaces you out, they will not have an answer. They just won't. They won't have they have not been able to guard 5s in space. Also, the New York Knicks are a really good team. Just really good. So I think they can get a few games off them. I do not think they could beat New York in a 7-game series. I don't think they can do that now. But if your goal is just to win a few games, to get your first playoff win since 2008 and break that streak, I think they definitely could do that against New York. However, now if you get to the 5th seed, you have a chance. I think you have a chance to win a playoff series. Because in that position, you are, let's say the rankings stay the exact same. They go against Indiana. I think they can beat Indiana. I would take the Pistons to beat Indiana in a playoff series. I think they would have the best player on the floor in Cade. And I don't think Indiana's defense will be good enough to stop what Cade will be doing to them. I think in a playoff series when everyone's locked in, first of all, that rivalry, that playoff series would be goated. If we could get Pistons versus Pacers after this rivalry that's been going, that would be such a goated series, and that I feel like that should really be the expectations, not just for Pistons fans or Pacers fans. That really should be the expectation or want from the NBA fan base. Getting that series in the first round would be epic and fun as hell. So I'm hoping that's what ends up happening. I hope the Pistons get up to 5, Indiana stays at 4, or Pistons get up to 4, and Indiana gets to 5. That's what I want to happen. That would be such a fun series to watch. But, yes, I think the Pistons would beat Indiana. Again, I think they would have the best player on the floor. And with Ausar Thompson developing how he is, I think they would have the most impactful defender on the floor as well. I think the Pistons the Pistons probably feel like they are the better team. They probably feel like they are better. They are just straight up better than the Pacers. And the Pacers aren't ahead of them enough in the standings for them to feel otherwise. I know they've lost to the Pacers the last 2 games, but they also beat them in the in-season tourney. So I do think that the Pistons feel like they're better than Indiana, and I would take them to beat Indiana. Real quick, though, I want to go back to the point about the Knicks, just to give everyone an idea of where the Knicks are. The Knicks have the second best offense in the NBA. Now, maybe having Ausar now playing how he's playing, that would change things. But New York's offense is so good because they can space out and play 5 out. And that, anyone who's watched the Pistons this year, that is by far the number one kryptonite to the Detroit Pistons. They have not been able to guard 5 out at all. And I don't know what their answer could be in the playoffs. I don't think Duran, who we'll talk about later, while he's improved in a playoff series, I don't think in 2025, maybe in a few years, but in 2025, it has improved nearly enough to be able to handle that. So just to give you guys some numbers behind that, they have the second best offense in the NBA. I just don't think the Pistons can mess with it. But Indiana, like I said, I think they would beat Indiana. I'd take them over Indiana. And a fun tidbit here, they actually have a higher net rating than the Indiana Pacers right now. The Pistons rank 14th in the NBA net rating, plus 0.7. The Indiana Pacers are 16th at plus 0.1. So it's close, but the Pistons have now jumped over them. So I think the Pistons are just a better team than the Indiana Pacers. If they were to get Milwaukee in the first round, they're not winning the series. I think they could get a game. I still think they could get a game or two, but the Pistons would not have the best player in that series. It would be Giannis. The Pistons have no answer for Giannis, like we've seen when they've played him. They would not have an answer for Giannis. And Giannis, we've seen him go crazy in the playoffs. Like, we know what Giannis is. He's one of the top 15 players of all time, top 15 to 20. They wouldn't have an answer at this point for Giannis. So, if we're operating in Cade's reality that he wants to win a playoff series, they have to hope for the matchup against the Pacers, get to 5, and have a 5-4 matchup or 4-5 matchup, whichever one, between the Pacers. I think they could win that. And the next best chance I would give them against the Knicks, because they've proven they're not scared of them in Madison Square Garden. I wouldn't expect them to win it, but that would be their next best chance. But if they can get if they can get up to the 5 seed, and get Indiana in the playoffs, I think the Pistons will be playing in the second round. I think they would be playing in the semifinals, and everyone, a year removed from winning 14 games, I think every single person in the NBA, if not already, would be talking about the Pistons are up next. They're coming. They're on their way. It's possible. I think they 100% could catch Indiana. I think it's 100% they could end up 4th or 5th in the Eastern Conference. If they can do it, they can beat Indiana. They'll beat Indiana playoff series. My expectations, we'll wrap it up quick though, because my expectations aren't nearly as fun as Cade's. My expectation for the Pistons is just to maintain the 6th seed. I think that would be realistic and good goal for the Pistons. Avoid the play-in, get to the 6th seed, and just play New York competitively. You don't need to win the playoff series. I don't think anyone within Detroit feels like you have to win a playoff series for this season to feel vindicated, to feel good about this season. I think everyone already feels good about this season, no matter how they close. They could end up in the 7th seed, 8th seed, and I think everyone would feel great about how this season went. This season has been a major success, a major step forward after taking a major step backwards. My goal, stay in the 6th seed. You have a 2.5 game lead over the Orlando Magic right now. You have a good, it's not the easiest schedule in the NBA, but it's a fine one. You're not, going through a gauntlet, I don't think. And your players are getting better and better at the right times. So hold on to the 6th seed, and I think that would be fantastic. And I think you would check off every goal that you could have had for this season if you do that. And then win a playoff game, and you've broken that streak that's been going on since 2008 without a playoff win. I think that would be a perfect season for the Pistons. But let me know in the comment section down below or over on Twitter at Kuka where do you guys think, or what should the expectations be for the Detroit Pistons, and where do you think they could what's their ceiling outcome for this regular season? Do you think they could get up to the 4th seed? Where is the highest? Where do you think the Pistons will end up? Best case scenario by the end of this season. Let me know. Comment section down below or over on Twitter at Kuka. When we come back, there are 2 storylines that I think are the main storylines for the rest of the season that will have the biggest impact on the Pistons season the rest of the year. I'll tell you what those are coming up. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on the action than with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, I do that all the time, you can stay in on the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I've told you guys this many a times. I started using FanDuel years ago. I haven't stopped using it. I still use it very often. Maybe a little too much for my wife's liking, but I love FanDuel. It's super fun to use, super easy, super self-explanatory, but obviously, most importantly, super fun to use. Right now, FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review, whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. Subscribe to the personal YouTube channel, like I've told you guys. Playback Room, link down below. I have a bunch of other stuff coming to you guys in the next few weeks as I become full-time with my sports media career. That will be happening on February 28th. At that time, I will be giving you guys like a big announcement. We'll have like a big thing on the podcast where I tell you guys all the content that will be coming from me, where you guys can find it, how you can best support me. So stay tuned for that. I appreciate all of you guys' support to this time. 30 subs away, man, from 10K. 30 subs. Let's get there, man. I appreciate all of you guys. The biggest storylines to watch, most important storylines for the Detroit Pistons the rest of the year, there are two of them. Number one, by far, not even close. I don't think there's anything even close to how important this storyline is. Is Jalen Duran's improvement sustainable? And is it real? Jalen Duran, as we talked about last week, he came out and said himself, and I've told you guys this before, the reason why I was such a big fan of Jalen Duran before the season, in the offseason, and why, yes, I was very rough on him the first half of the season, but because the reason why is because Jalen Duran has proven, since being drafted by the Pistons, that he is receptive to criticism as long as you are fair. If you are fair with him and you're giving criticism that is fair and backed up with evidence, he's fine with it. He takes criticism well because he's critical of himself. He said last week, it's not a secret that I was not playing good the first whatever of the season. He said he was playing soft. He wasn't playing to his potential. He knows he wasn't playing well. And that's why I believe in players and I like players who are self-aware. And that's why I was so rough on him, because I know that he's cool with criticism that is fair. And that's probably why he says he's a fan of the podcast. You feel me? Good plug there by Kuka Hill. But the way he has been playing since January 1st, and I do think a lot of it has to do with playing next to Ausar, especially on defense. But offensively, the way he has been playing since January 1st, but even more so the last 2 weeks, has been fantastic. He walked into All-Star break playing peak value, peak performance for Jalen Duran. You started to see the self-creation with the ball in his hands from DHO, from the high post area. DHO, I've had a few of you guys asking. That's dribble handoff. From the high post area, getting all the way to the basket. Making kickouts off a live dribble, creating off a live dribble for others. He walks into the All-Star break with 4 straight games of 4+ assists a game. 5 assists, 6 assists, 7 assists. You're looking at, 23 assists over that 4-game span? To just 7 turnovers. 3-to-1, over a 3-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. You're seeing him score more offensively. You're seeing him be more aggressive offensively. Make the right decision with the ball in his hands. Not be as reckless with the ball in his hands. Make those short roll reads that we saw him make all the time as a rookie. You're seeing him do that. You're seeing him show you the unique offensive talent that makes him so enticing offensively that we didn't get to see for the first 3 months of the year, that we weren't seeing at all from him. But now you're seeing it again. And when you get that offensive performance, when you get that from him offensively, that is what makes you say, okay, we'll wait for him defensively. As long as he's showing the signs, he is worth waiting on defensively. When he's not doing that other stuff, you're sitting back and you're saying, okay, well, if he's not doing this offensively and he's struggling defensively, what's the gain here? When he's doing this offensively, he 100% is worth waiting and trying to develop on. And he's played exactly like that since January 1st, and more so over the last few weeks. He's been fantastic. I'm happy for him. He was probably the most criticized Piston over the first 3 months of the year, and coming out his own mouth, it was deserved. It wasn't unfair. But he took that and it motivated him, and he's played much better. The only question that needs to be answered is this play sustainable? And it's really the same question, or is it just a fluke? Is it just a good hot run? Can he do this consistently? Can the effort be there consistently? If it can, you're feeling great about him heading into the offseason. I think that's big. Lastly, on Jalen Duran, over the last 15 games, the only Piston that plays rotation minutes that has a higher on-off net rating than him, Tobias Harris. That is a far cry from the first few months. He had by far the worst of any rotation player from the start of the season. The team was much better with Stu on the floor at the first few months of the year. Last 15 games since January, that's completely changed. They've been great with him on the floor. They've been great. And that's a good way to segue into the second storyline. I think a lot of it is his own improvement. I'm not at all trying to take away from Jalen Duran himself. But a contributing factor segues us to the second storyline, Ausar Thompson. Once Ausar Thompson was inserted to the starting lineup January 1st, and again, Ivy stands. This is not about Ivy. No one's going after Ivy. Calm the hell down. Please. This is not about Ivy. But since Ausar was inserted into the starting lineup, things have just changed. Things have just changed for him. I'm trying to get the starting lineup. Give me just a minute. I'm going to get the starting lineup that we've seen. That we've seen from Cade, Ausar, Tobias, THJ, and Duran. All right, here it is right here. That lineup has played 23 games together, and that's been the starting lineup since January 1st. Their net rating is a plus 7.5. They are destroying teams. That 5-man lineup is blitzing teams. And it's not just because, now they are really good defensively. They have a defensive rating of 110.7, which would be top 5 in the NBA. Actually, I think that would be like third in the NBA. I'll confirm that for you by the end of the podcast. But they also have an offensive rating of 118.2, that starting lineup. They are figuring out how to be impactful offensively with Ausar on the floor, to be really good with Ausar on the floor, by putting the ball in his hands, him being a playmaker, how deadly he's been in transition, and over the last 5 to 7 games, how aggressive he's been as a scorer, as a driver, as a slasher, getting to the free throw line. Those two, the developments of Jalen Duran and Ausar Thompson, we know Cade's great. And we know Cade obviously really is the number one reason. Obviously, having that franchise all-star player, that's number one. But removing Cade, and honestly, I think that Cade could have been an all-star and the team wouldn't have been this good. But he still would have been an all-star. I think the biggest swing for why the team has been so good recently is Ausar Thompson and Jalen Duran. I think you guys understand what I'm saying. We get that Cade's the all-star. He's obviously the driving engine, like, we get it. But the reason why the team has made this big of a turn has been because of the improvements to join Cade from Ausar and Jalen Duran. I've had a few of you guys say, don't forget Malik. Obviously, Malik's been great. We've talked about him a lot. But the biggest change, Ausar and Jalen Duran, they've been fantastic over the last month and a half. This starting lineup is blitzing teams. They are destroying teams with that starting lineup. And it's because of Jalen Duran's improvement and Ausar Thompson finally being able to play more and more minutes, looking more and more like himself, and being given more of a responsibility, and overwhelmingly doing good with the more responsibility, doing well with the more responsibility, doing extremely well with more responsibility. Watching to see if Ausar can maintain that, and if he can continue to be what a lot of people, and I probably agree now, can he continue to be the second best player, the second most impactful player on this team the rest of the year? If he can continue to be that, this team will achieve my expectation, and it will give him a chance to fulfill the expectations that Cade put out for them at the All-Star game, or at the All-Star weekend. But you need Jalen Duran to continue doing what he's been doing, maintain that, and you need Ausar Thompson to continue getting better and maintain what he's been doing. But I think this is probably, and we'll wrap up the podcast here, This is probably the most positive, what's the right word? I wanted to say happy, but that feels like a cop-out. The most excited, the most hopeful that the Pistons fan base has felt since 2008. This moment right now is the most positive, hopeful the fan base has been since 2008. It's been deserved, and they have a chance, led by Cade, Ausar Thompson, and Jalen Duran. Their young trio. Jane Ivey would be a part of it, but he's out right now. But the young trio leading them into the playoffs, they have a chance to even make it more special this year. We'll see if they're able to do it. Before we wrap up, I do want to let you guys know their offensive rating with that starting lineup. That would be 5th in the NBA, their offensive rating. Their defensive rating would be 5th in the entire NBA. So gives you a better description or a better idea of how good that starting lineup has been. But that's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. Hit that subscribe button to the YouTube channel. Leave us a 5-star review, whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. Till next time, I'll see you guys later. Stay safe out there. And until next time, peace out, everybody. Stay safe out there.